For this last week, we've got our political power panel. We've got GOP strategist Alex Suzan and former presidential advisor to both Clinton and Obama, Dr. Suzan Johnson-Cook. Alex, I'll start with you. You know, the RNC was supposed to be Trump's sort of victory lap of sorts, right? But according to the Decision Desk polling, Trump's only leading Biden by less than 2 points. What do you make of that?
I think it was more than a victory lap. I think it was a come together moment for this party following the horror of last Saturday. It was also an opportunity for us as Republicans to show the nation that this is a party that is building on the successes of the past, that is including more people than ever before. We had the Teamsters president speaking at the convention. We had a prayer from an incredible civil rights attorney, Harmeet Dillon, saying a Sikh prayer. We had Kid Rock. We had just about every facet of folks under the sun that you had at this convention, and they were all united and excited to move forward and win in November. It's really building momentum right now, and you're starting to see that moving forward.
I know unity has been the name of the game for the Republican Party right now. Former President Trump saying he sort of scrapped his speech and wanted to deliver a new one at the RNC, one of unity. But is former President Trump the right person to deliver that message of unity? Can he bring over those undecided moderate voters, or are voters at this point pretty set on their decision?
Well, clearly he is bringing the party together, and clearly he is ahead in this race. When you look at those polls, there's no doubt about it that he is the odds-on favorite to be the next president. And when you look at moves that have occurred, especially over the past week, like Elon Musk saying, after saying he was going to be neutral in the presidential race, that he's going all in with former President Trump, it's crystal clear that people are gravitating to this message. And I think the split screen of the chaos in the Democratic Party makes the Republican message even more appealing to folks. And I'll add to that the selection of Senator J.D. Vance in that rally that's happening today. It's really doubling down on the message that the Republican Party is now the party of the working class, of the blue-collar, hardworking individuals that make this country what it is.
Dr. Cook, I want to bring you into the conversation here. You know, we had a panel of voters just earlier on our air today. One of them, she said she was an undecided voter, and part of her problem is she's seeing, to Alex's point, some of the chaos that it feels like unfolding in the Democratic Party. She doesn't even know who's going to be on the ticket for the Democrats come November. Will it be Biden? Is he going to drop out of the race? So what's the answer for the Democrats here? Where do they go from here?
Well, that's a big problem, and they're going to have to definitely convince the undecided voter, because it doesn't mean that the undecided is going for Trump. It just means that right now they're not sure about going for. So there is definitely chaos, but, you know, we're 30 days away from the Democratic convention. And so they're going to have to do a PR branding job like none other. I think, to your point, the Republican convention, definitely they were on one page. Everybody saw a normalcy of Trump, and they saw an undivided camp. The Democrats are going to have to use the next month to say we're on the same page, and they have to start now. They don't have the victory or the luxury of, 2 months or down the road. The RNC has met. They've shown what they can do. It's the Democrats' time to say, we're going to come together. We're going to do it quickly, like glue. And they have to start tonight. They don't have next week or the week following.
Right. So what is the strategy then for the Biden team? As, President Biden continues to say, hey, I'm defiant. I'm staying in this race. I am the nominee come November.
Well, they're going to have to make sure that they pounce on his record. That's all that they have to stand on now. His experience in the seat as president, having done well for 4 years, and they're going to have to stand on his record. That's the only thing they can do. What they did on the RNC was that they painted a picture of Trump as a normal grandfather, father, husband, and they did a great job in branding. The Democratic Party is going to have to do that as well. They're going to have to show the normalcy that Biden is strong enough to still be president, but they're also going to have to show that he has a track record, and he's going to have to really dumb down on that and stand on his experience.
It really does feel like the timeline is shrinking, though, right? To your point, I mean, we've got the DNC just a few weeks away. I mean, it seems like the time for these conversations, it feels like it's already passed, but if not, it's definitely the time is right now.
Yeah, they're at the start line. They cannot be at the finish line right now. They're at the start line and they have to really do it because the timing is critical. And it couldn't have been a worse time to get COVID. There's never a good time to get COVID.
Sure.
But the timing right now is this was not a great time. So he's going to have to come out like a buck coming out of the races. He's going to have to go to the first place and show that he can do it and stand strong. So his health is a question. His track record's at question. And then his running mate, he's going to have to say, I have a strong running mate who also has experience. It's not a newcomer. It's not someone you haven't heard of before, but we've together have been a Biden-Harris campaign that can do well.
Alex, on the other side of the aisle, though, there is so much talk about Biden leaving the ticket. Will he stay in the race come November? But it seems like so much of former President Trump's strategy is Biden staying in the race. He's the person he wants to go up against come November.
Well, obviously, former President Trump, our nominee, will compete against whoever is at the top of the ticket and win. I would have to say, though, that I would agree that the time frame has passed. I would agree with you that the time for a Democrat to mount a serious challenge of President Biden was probably about a year ago. And now that 14 million Americans, 14 million Democrats have had their say in the primary, President Biden is the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. And this insider revolt trying to make this last-minute change is about the fact that Democrats believe that President Biden is going to lose. This is not the way things work in a democracy. President Biden is the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. However, if President Biden believes that he is in a situation where he cannot continue as president of the United States due to his health, his cognitive health, then he should resign rather than run, rather than say he's going to step aside. You don't have a return policy on presidents. No human being has an expiration date on their forehead. I think Senator J.D. Vance said it very well in a tweet this morning that it's very cynical to think that President Biden can be the president only till January 20th if he drops out and lets Vice President Harris take his place on the top of the ticket. President who is not cognitively healthy is a national security risk for all of us at any moment.
He's going to finish his term. And what we have to remember is that the Democratic Convention has delegates who were picked by Biden. And so we have delegates and they're super delegates. And so he's not going to drop out. He's going to go to the convention. He's going to finish his term and hopefully it'll be a second term in office as well.
But to your point, it'll be interesting to see the sort of the PR spin of all of this as these calls continue to grow from members of his own party. We'll see what happens as the week goes on. GOP strategist Alex Sedan, former presidential advisor to both Clinton and Obama, Dr. Suzan Johnson-Cook. Thank you both for joining us. Appreciate the conversation and all of this. Let's head down to Texas.